Alright, I'm back. Um, so this is part 2 of the video. I'm gonna ask you a few questions because I, I've, I've, I can't really quite pinpoint where you're coming from as far as determinism goes, or what your particular view on determinism is and how that works. So I'm just gonna ask, and also some of the other things you were talking about, I was gonna ask other questions based on that as well. So let's get started. Well, first question is kind of obvious. What's your definition of determinism? Because I've looked up a couple definitions, and one of them is it described it as, now if I can get the wording right, an unbroken chain of events that lead to that cause certain actions, or that or let me see if I can pull up one thing real quick. Bear with me a second. Okay. It says determinism, it's a philosophical theory holding that all events are inevitable consequences of antecedent I lost it. Antecedent sufficient causes. It's just sort of a fancier way of saying what I said before, I guess. But so I want to know, how exactly does your definition of determinism work? If you could describe it in a bit more detail and how it works, or how it all goes on, that would be awesome. And next question is, in your video before, you started describing, or you said about what it is to make a choice, and at one point you even said that you don't feel that people can make a choice even between a couple things because something's been determined, or something I can't quite remember. But the one point that I want to refer to was when you were talking about deciding, someone decides to take a walk, and you said you were talking about unpacking it into smaller things. You started breaking it down to leg muscles and leg cells, or muscle cells, and then the atoms that form the cells, and then you did the same thing with the brain. Brain cells, little electrons, and or the neurons or whatever going through the brain, and you still broke it down to atoms. My question is, I gotta know, is why, or why is it necessary to break them down to the atomic level? Because I mean, I can see in a way where it might be necessary, or possibly be necessary, to break down the brain to smaller levels, to smaller micro levels on the neuronal level, or the atomic level, or whatever. But when you talk about other parts of the body, that all seems secondary, because it's reacting to what the brain signals are sending it. The brain sends a signal down through the nervous system to the leg, and it moves, and you start walking, and that's how that goes. But the only thing I can see from the way you were breaking it down is just describing, just sort of giving a physical breakdown of an action that had already occurred, not that was in the process of occurring, if that makes sense. So if you could just explain why it's necessary to always break things down to the atomic level, that would be helpful, which is also why I asked what your view on determinism was, or specifically what everything that's involved with your view of determinism. Also, I wanted to know if you believe that the micro can have an effect on the macro. I know I made a point in the first part of my video saying that it can, but I want to know if you actually think that it can, because you referenced my two things earlier in my video that you said that it doesn't prove that the micro affects the macro, but then when you were describing about making a choice and decisions, you kept breaking it down to the atomic level, where electrons and stuff would be, and or just atoms and electrons, maybe subatomic. I can't remember. But you kept breaking it down to that micro level in order to make a macro level decision. So I just want to know if you believe that micro can have an effect on macro, and yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for that. So, and I think I'm sure I had one more question, and I can't place it right now. Oh, well, if I do come up with another question, I'll probably place it in the, I was gonna say sidebar, but YouTube's done something different, so I guess it'll be in the lower bar, I guess. I don't know. But be sure to check that on this part of the video in case I do add another question or so. And if I do find the article for the Discover magazine, or if I find some stuff on that and it seems credible or interesting, I'll also link some of my sources and that to this this part of the video too, so be sure to check that occasionally in case I upload that. So, alright, thanks for watching. Can't wait to hear some of your responses, and hopefully we can keep this conversation going. It's very interesting. Later. Alright, I said I was gonna write write the questions in a little thing, but I'm just gonna tack this on to the video, so if it looks like I was cut and pasted, it was. So one other question that I had was, could you describe for me what a choice would look like if it were not affected by an external influence? And also, for that matter, what would you qualify as an external influence? Does it have to be another person, a thing, an event? What? So that's two quick questions just tacked on to the end of this, and hopefully it'll all fit. So, what a choice without being affected by external influences look like, or how would that work, and what do you qualify as an external influence? So, thanks again. Live long and prosper.